Hello, my name is Master Andrew Trento, and this is the Martial Way. I'm here again with Mr. Thomas Cubby and Dr. Mary Ellen Steele, who helped with my last two videos, and today they are back to talk about martial arts and learning. I think one of the things that I have found after not only training in the martial arts, but teaching martial arts, that there are many different ways to learn. I think from teaching martial arts and training and teaching myself sometimes, that the martial arts has given me tools to learning how to teach people who learn in different ways. Dr. Steele, you've had many different clients, and I think a lot of the frustrations come from when people cannot understand or develop something that they're learning in themselves. What do you say to that?
It's a very good point. We learn, and I think very often we try to teach the same way. People learn in an audio way, visually, perceptually, tactily. There are very different ways to learn. There are different personality features that help us learn. So I think it is a very strong point to find out, how does that person learn? Why is that person not learning? And then to address it. And a lot of times it's trial and error. What is the old saying? I learn more from my failures than from my successes. Very true. And so to be able to assess someone, watch them and say, it's not working. Let me have the courage to change my style and do it a different way. To me, it's important.
I know that it doesn't matter how old you are, depending, whatever it is that you're learning, sometimes we have struggles in learning something. Thomas, can I ask on camera how old you are?
You're not asking me.
No, not asking you.
Let's see, 29 with 22 years experience.
I love it. So 29 with 22 years of experience. And you started martial arts only this past January.
Yes.
Do you find that you learn differently now than you did maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago?
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing, well, first of all, the way you instruct covers everybody in the classroom. It's on the floor. If somebody's not getting it visually, you'll say, okay, well, you see this move you're doing? This is grabbing somebody, or this is blocking a punch. You're creating that association, and that's like connecting the dots. So here you are learning a form which can just be thought of as just some movements, some relaxative exercises, but they're not. They're actual intention behind each movement in a form, and when you connect those dots, that really helps me in the learning process, and I've seen it help the other students as well. But maybe that doesn't work for somebody else, so you'll put some other analogy in there or create some other language around it. And I think that the biggest thing for me is just asking the question. If you're not getting it, if you're not learning it the way it's being taught, to say, you know what, I'm not getting it that way, and can you do it another way? Can you explain it a different way? Can you show me something new? And so I think in the learning process, not only is it helpful or important for the educator to be flexible in their teaching, but also for the student to be open-minded and not be afraid to, how am I going to look by asking, a dumb question. And when you have that synergy between the student and the instructor or teacher, whoever, then it's a perfect marriage, and everybody's going to benefit the most.
I think it's something important. Like, people are afraid to ask. That's what I see a lot. I'm afraid of being wrong. I think there's so much pressure on always being right or being perfect, and I don't believe in perfection anywhere, except for my hair maybe. But other than that, I had to get that in there. But because there's this fear of being wrong, or making a mistake is a bad thing, there's one thing I do like to teach is that mistakes are vital. It's important. You have to make mistakes in order to grow. You have to make mistakes to learn, because learning is a wonderful thing. I mean, where does this pressure come from, Mary Ellen? Where do you see where people are just so afraid of being wrong or not afraid to ask the questions?
I think we've created a society where everyone is, you go to a Little League game, everyone gets a trophy. Really? Why?
Mm-hmm.
You go and everyone is told they're wonderful, they're terrific. If you tell everyone they're terrific, what you're really saying is no one's terrific. Both ends of the spectrum are negate, the one negates
Right, it
the
kind
other.
of cancels it out.
It cancels it out. If every single person in this class is perfect, and that is a word you don't use, which is great. There's no room for improvement, but what it is saying to a child, I don't feel perfect. I have questions. I need explanations. I know I could do better. But you don't believe in me.
Mhm.
You believe I'm down here, and I will never be up here.
Mhm.
And so they don't ask the questions. That creates a lot of anxiety, a lot of insecurity. So I think by saying, yeah, okay, you did try your best, but have you thought? By pushing that envelope, we would be making stronger children.
I think one of the things I've also seen, though, is I think there's some coaches and teachers who don't have the patience. They get attacked. Can I ask? And once they're attacked, like, oh, why can't you understand this? And that just doesn't, I mean, there's a fear that goes to that
Yes.
making a mistake or not understanding is a bad thing, or you're stupid if you don't understand. And the patience that it takes to, well, trying a different way, or understanding, or looking at it differently, or problem solving, developing the critical thinking. That's
Absolutely.
so important. I mean, these are the tools of learning.
Absolutely.
Where else, though, like, there's the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Do either of you believe that?
I don't.
I wouldn't know.
Very good.
Oh,
Very
I love
good. Because I mean, there's some people say, oh, they'll never learn. Why bother? And I'm just a hopeless romantic. But I always said, I will always find a way. I don't care how old you are or how long you've been doing something, you can always learn, whether it's a life skill, whether it's a sports skill, whatever it is. And I love being the one to try to prove everyone wrong, not just the purpose of proving wrong, to really help somebody achieve something, to learn. I mean, there's such resistance sometimes. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, yeah.
To add to this part of the conversation, I read a book called The Talent Code. It's an amazing book, and it focuses on practice and the ways you practice. And there was actually in the book a young girl who spent maybe 3 minutes on learning a part of a song on her instrument. And they studied it, and they said in that 3 minutes, just the way she studied, the way she practiced, was equivalent to her practicing for 2 hours, even though she'd only done it for a few minutes. Now, also in the book, it goes on to talk about how doing these things over and over and over, like doing a punch over and over or a stance or whatever, it creates these, and I'm not a neurologist or such, but there's chemicals that your brain produces that create neural pathways and the more you do something, the wider those pathways become, and then those actions get triggered easier and faster and more. So as youths, there's lots of this myelin that's in our brains, but as we get older, we don't produce it naturally as much. But by practicing and challenging yourself to new things that you've not done, like brush your teeth with your left hand instead of your right, if you're right-handed, vice versa, learning to play an instrument like I do, playing the ukulele, how to get that in there. And then, of course, taking a martial art. So even though I'm getting into it, many more years of experience into my life, it's, at first I was intimidated by it, but as I've gone through my first form and now I'm in my second form, I know that from the standpoint of my healthy brain, that's going to help me years into my life as I get more years of experience, because
right,
I don't
yes.
age.
That's
I just
correct.
Get more
No.
experience. that my brain is going to be healthy and active, and I think that's really important, because a lot of people don't do that. They don't take on new challenges. They don't try something different to stimulate those.
And that stimulation keeps you younger and healthier longer.
And I think they even say when you always do things, even if it's a word puzzle or Sudoku, it stimulates the mind. It helps with things like Alzheimer's even,
Oh,
where just
absolutely.
the mind's always active, it's being worked. I mean, martial arts, I say the tool is you learn to think. The greatest power that the human being has is to think. And questions, like we were talking about earlier, is the act of thinking. And you ask the right questions, depending on what you're asking about, you can get so deep with your mind. That's where the mind-body discipline really works with martial arts. And there's also that repetition and association, which I tried very hard to put in my style. I remember when Mary Ellen came in with her son William for the first time, I tried so hard to impress you, because I would do a little more add-on, refresh, and I said, palm up block, waving to yourself, back fist, holding ice cream. And she saw right away, not knowing what she did for a living either. But but I've always done it that way. Repetition and association, where not only do you teach material, but teaching others to learn, how to learn.
By critical thinking, by critical questions, analytical comments, absolutely. And personalization in it.
Yes.
That is major. But those are the things that keep people learning and growing and wanting to come back and learn more.
Yes. That want.
They don't want, you can't force them
Right.
after a certain point. They say,
Yeah, they roll
this
the eyes. The sigh.
but if you're throwing out a question that hits them, they go on and they are responding like this to a question, and you're going, and then they're responding to each other. It's very exciting. But we have to challenge the
Yes.
mind, the body, and the spirit, no question. And we never stop learning, we never stop doing.
I think
Never.
I have an upcoming interview with, he was the founder of the Haganah system, Mike Lee Kinerick. And he said to me in that interview that he thought it was very important for especially teachers to every year put themselves in a position where they're learning something new, totally out of what they do, because they should never forget what it feels like to be a student. But I want to thank very much Thomas Cubby and Dr. Mary Ellen Steele for again sitting down with me here at the Marshall Way. And please, next week we have the Master Trento special with Mike Lee Kinerick, where he'll be talking about his experiences working with the world-renowned Joe Louis, the early beginnings of his making in Krav Maga and Haganah, and even his experience all over the world from his time in the special units in Israel and coming to the United States, and why September 11th had an important effect on him in his training and his life as an American. Thank you so much. I'm Master Andrew Trento, and that is your Zen for the day. Thank you.